Like you add the humor. Is that part of your superpower as you mentioned it? Like that, does that help keep you going as well?
Well, I think, and I did a TED talk on this called Mental with Benefits. Everybody I've ever met who has mental illness, who's not completely dysfunctional, has some other really amazing talent, singers, writers, comics, magician. They have something else. And I believe that my comic ability, imagination, you know, uh, um, and so forth, uh, are simply the flip side of my depression, thoughts of suicide. It's all the same wiring. So, it's I can teach you to write stand up. I can teach you to perform stand up. What I cannot teach you to do is process information the way my brain does. And I believe that's because of that wiring that is both the depression and thoughts of suicide and, the imagination, comedic ability, and so forth. So it's all part of one. I in my TEDx talk, I said to the audience, look, I don't think I'm broken. I believe I was made this way. And the point of the talk was if we could convince kids, young people, yes, you have a mental illness, but you know what? Here's what adults never tell you. You have some mental ableness that your peers can't touch, I would wager right this minute. And sure enough, every time I talk to a parent who has a child with an issue, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, I go, well, so what do they do really well? Boom. He's amazing at this or that, or, whatever it happens to be. So I just think I don't believe I'm living with a genetic mutation. I believe it's an amazing evolutionary adaptation. It's a dangerous one because if it gets out of balance, and I mean, I came awfully close to taking my life. So, you know, but I do believe
Is
it is you know,
is that what happened? Like when you decided to attempt the suicide, right? Because you mentioned you've had other family members who have died by suicide as well.
yep.
Was that a moment that you felt that, you know what, I don't have anything to lose? That's that imbalance coming up to the surface, and now you're in a situation where you have the gun in your mouth
Mhm.
and you're making a decision to either pull it or not to pull it.
Well, yeah, I had nothing to lose. And uh, suicidality is a three-legged stool. Leg one is social distancing. You distance yourself from other people. Leg two is you have made the decision, you can take your life. And leg three is something called burdensomeness. You firmly believe, irrationally, by the way, you firmly believe that the world would be better off without you. That everybody you know and love. People say it's a cowardly act, it's selfish, not from the inside. It's selfless from the inside. I firmly believe the world would be better without me because I had $1 million life insurance policy. If I pull the trigger, my wife is restored financially. She's brokenhearted, but she's got $1 million. The problem was the reason I didn't pull the trigger is the rational part of my brain goes, how long have you had that policy? Because my brain knew you have to have it 2 years and a day. Otherwise, they don't pay anything on a suicide. After 2 years and a day, they pay the $1 million. So I had to call my insurance agent and find out. And I'd only had the policy 22 months. I had to wait 2 months to pull the trigger, which I had no problem waiting because I knew at 2 months and a day, I could easily pull the trigger. Fortunately, I don't recall that day. It must have eased up a little bit and just enough to let me sail past that day without thinking, oh, it's day 61. Where's that gun? So that's what kept me alive was I was not going to leave my wife brokenhearted and broke. If I was going out, you know, I've said in jest before, look, if you're going to kill yourself, I mean, you're dead set on it, pardon the pun. Don't jump off an overpass or stand in front of a train and give the engineer nightmares for the rest of his or her life. Put on the bomb vest, go find some jackass who deserves to die, wrap your arms around them, then pull the trigger. If you're going to go, take some jackass with you. So, yeah, so it wasn't that I didn't have a second thought because, sense of humor or, people I've leaving, I was gone. If that policy had been paid up, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation.
And what could someone in my position who would come in contact with someone that is starting to pull away socially, is starting to distance themselves, who are starting to have these thoughts, what would you suggest that someone like me would do to help them overcome it?
Well, and here's the reason that offer is a good one. 8 out of 10 people who are suicidal are ambivalent. They want somebody to step in and help. And 9 out of 10 give hints in the last week leading up to an attempt. Again, they obviously want somebody to step up. So what you have to do is you have to know what the signs of depression are. Because people say, he never gave any indication. Oh yeah, there were indications. You just had no idea what you were looking at or listening to. For example, symptom of depression. Has trouble getting out of bed in the morning, but kind of rallies in the afternoon. Eat too much, can't eat. Sleep too much, or can't sleep. They let their personal hygiene go. This is, if you're watching or listening, not watching, what I'm wearing is sort of Zoom casual or COVID casual. But if you tune into a Zoom and the person who's usually pretty well put together, you notice their hair's a little dirty, the clothes are a little dirty. It may be because they're depressed, have trouble dragging themselves out of bed in the morning to shower and run a load of wash. I talked to a woman yesterday. She says, Frank, I got to tell you, I oftentimes go a couple of days without a shower. I just cannot drag myself to the shower. So those are signs of depression. Now, here's what you don't say. We've already talked about this. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Turn that frown upside down. Have you tried fish oil? If you think somebody's depressed, what you should say is, look, I'm here for you and I mean it. I know you're not crazy or lazy or self-absorbed. I know that depression is a mental illness. Here's the good news. With time and treatment, things will get better. I'll take the time. I'll help you get the treatment. And then here's the big one that nobody likes to ask, but is necessary. Are you having thoughts of suicide? If you can't ask that question, you find somebody who can ask that question. There's an old wives' tale that you should never mention the word suicide in front of somebody who's depressed, because I love this, because it would give them the idea. Suicide? What a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? Trust me, it's crossed their mind. Okay, let's say you suspect they're suicidal, but they're not forthcoming. They don't say they are. How would you know? Well, talk about death and dying. You catch them Googling death and dying. Death and dying appears as a theme in their artwork, their music, their writing. They're getting their affairs in order. They're giving away prized possessions. That's a big one, because they want to make sure those possessions go to the people they're going to go to, when they're gone. If somebody comes up to you and gives them their favorite brand new PlayStation, like, dude, yeah, that, or give away a pet because they want to make sure the pet's taken care of. Here's a counterintuitive one that's extremely dangerous. They've been depressed forever, and then all of a sudden they're happy for no reason. And you're happy because finally they're happy. Well, they may be happy because they have chosen time, place, and method of their suicide, and they know the pain, there's that word again, they know the pain is finite, so they're happy. So let's say they do tell you they're suicidal. What do you do? What do you say? Well, you ask them, do you have a plan? If they say yes, what is your plan? If it's detailed, time, place, method, you need to get them on the phone with Suicide Prevention Lifeline, or in England, the Samaritans, a counseling service. And if they won't pick up the phone, you pick up the phone. The volunteer on the other end will do their best to work the phone into the hand of the person who's in crisis. In the US, they've got a text line now. You text the word help to 741-741. There'd be somebody young on the other end texting back. Younger people tend to be more forthcoming in text. And of course, question comes up, when do you call the cops? If they're an immediate danger to themselves or somebody else, you got no choice but to call the cops. Now that in most states is going to buy them a 3-day involuntary hold in a mental health facility with no shoestring or belt, but they'll be alive. They may not speak to you again. They may unfriend you on Facebook, but they will be alive. So now let's say they are depressed and suicidal, but the plan's not really well formed. What do you say? Well, this is not in any psychology book anywhere. It's something that a psychiatrist and I came up with. I would say to them, well, tell me, are you going to kill yourself? And if they say no, then this last question I think is the most important. Okay, tell me why not. Make them give voice to whatever it is that's keeping them here. My friends, my family, my animals, my whatever is keeping them here. And then as a friend, wait 48 hours, follow up with another call or text or email, however you're communicating, just to let them know you care and you're thinking about them. Follow-up is very important.